Another Wednesday's come and gone, and I've got some comics. Let's talk about them. Hey, welcome to 9 Panel Grid. This week, we've seen reinterpretations, relaunches, and reignitions. But we're going to kick things off this week with Absolute Batman number 7, written by Scott Snyder with artwork by Marcos Martin. This book really did a good job considering we have an art change on here, really sticking to the style and the kind of like the stylings of the world that's been built so far with Absolute Batman. Martin does a really great job at keeping kind of his stylistic choices really in tune to what you would expect from Martin, but also kind of still in the same vein of the character styles that you get from Nick Dragotta. Batman is still the big hulking mass that you would expect, but there's just kind of a different tone, a different structure to what you get with Martin's artwork. I think it really fits in with the world, which is a really great success for his approach on the book right now, being that this is the first issue that we've seen. This story all centers around basically the introduction of Victor Freeze within this absolute world and kind of how he works within the world and the differences that we see between the proper version of the DC universe and this absolute version, and kind of like the what it means basically for him being in this world with this new version of Batman. In that same vein, I think that Scott Snyder does a really great job at introducing the Batman of this world with his group of friends who we kind of know as like almost like a greater part of the rogues gallery of the proper Batman that we have in the other universe as well. So we get some really good interactions between them. It makes for like a really deep, dark pace for the book as well, as we kind of ping pong back and forth between Victor Freeze and his past and present, and the ramifications of kind of the friend group in the rogues gallery now have a better understanding of Bruce and Bruce's inner workings and his relationship with the Batman vigilante. So, really great issue. I think this was probably one of the stronger issues that the series has had so far. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. All right, let's move on to potentially the hottest book of the week here. Let's talk about Amazing Spider-Man number 1, written by Joe Kelly with artwork by Pepe Larraz. So, Amazing Spider-Man has a really interesting relationship right now with its readers, as some people are ride or die with Spider-Man, and some people are just ready for the book to maybe kind of hit a higher peak than it has for a lot of the general scope of like the societal viewpoints of the book. This did an okay job. I feel like what this is doing is kind of setting the stage back to like a ground level, like, 1.0 version of the Peter Parker and Spider-Man that we know. It's if you like Peter Parker struggling to hold a job, if you like Peter Parker still being the warm, caring, nephew to his Aunt May, you're going to get that right here and right now. If you want Peter that can't hold on a relationship, you're getting that right here and right now. Joe Kelly definitely brings a humor to the book that I think is needed, as the previous iterations of Peter Parker, I feel like, didn't really lean into the humor aspect of that character, the snarkiness, as a successful way as Joe Kelly is doing right here and right now. The problem is that there's really nothing bold. There's nothing new. There's nothing exciting. And I don't know what that is supposed to be. I'm not writing that book. But what I can tell you is that for me, as a reader and an appreciator of a character with the gravitas of a Spider-Man, I almost feel like he needs almost like a Krakoa-like reinvention, the same way that really changed the status quo for the X-Men. I feel like Spider-Man needs something like that. He needs something that is going to be something that is really going to shake the foundation of that character to the core and make it something absolutely new. What you get here is very, very, very much the same. It's good. It's just not different enough for me. Pepe Larraz on art is really fantastic. You're getting exactly what you would expect from Pepe Larraz. However, I feel like there are pages here there where there's some time that's left off. There's some, I don't know. It was feels like it was not a rush job necessarily, but there's stuff where I would appreciate a little more attention to detail, a little bit more just detail in general in the backgrounds. Everything felt very, very kinetic, but almost at the detriment of the book itself. I do understand that there was action packed, and we definitely should put that at the forefront. But sometimes I would want a little bit more detail in there. Overall, though, Amazing Spider-Man to me was good, not great. Next up, we have Aquaman number 4, written by Jeremy Adams with artwork by John Timms. This is just such a great book for people that have no background on the character of Arthur Curry, like me, because what it's really doing is he's taking the main characters, taking Aquaman and removing him from everything that has like a level of, I don't know, gravity towards the mythos of the character, his home, his friends, his family, everything that you know and love about the character. It's taken away from him in the pages of this book, which makes it totally accessible because you're kind of a fish out of water with Arthur Curry, who is kind of dealing with those same things. But through that journey, you're getting to learn all the background and all the mythos that you're going to need to appreciate that character so much. That's the journey I'm taking here, as Arthur has now been thrown into this dimension. He's now been shackled and imprisoned, and he's trying to find a way to escape so that he can find Atlantis, which has disappeared with all of its inhabitants, including his wife and child. John Timms is doing a really great job at like really conveying the action of this book here, and even in the softer moments here, he's really been able to like show expressive characters as they struggle with things that maybe aren't physical but more mental or maybe more emotional. He's really conveying that in a great way in the pages of this book, and again, Jeremy Adams is making it so incredibly excessive. If you are not a Aquaman fan, I think that you should try this book. If you are an Aquaman fan, I think that you're probably having a heck of a lot of fun with this because it's a joyous romp. It's like it's a classic adventure type story here that again is super accessible for every kind of reader. Next up, let's talk Daredevil number 20, written by Saladin Ahmed with artwork by Jose Pinto. So we're finally kind of past the first arc of this run by Saladin Ahmed here, and we've, put the sins of Matt's past in the book and in our lives, basically, as we're now ready to move forward. And what's the best way to move forward? By looking into the past of the 90s, apparently, because if you're a Daredevil fan, you know that, oh, yeah, the 90s was a great time and everyone loved that black armored suit, right? Okay, not really, I guess. This book in this series, my critique on everything that's happened with this run has been the exact same. It's tell, don't show. There's very little nuance that I'm getting from this book. There's very little, I don't know, substance to it as well. Everything is a slow burn, and that burn isn't worthwhile because the thing that's being delivered here, I feel like, isn't really pushing the character of Matt forward, and it's not really showcasing any of the ancillary characters in a way that makes them bigger and bolder and brighter than they have been previously. I'm not sure what the mission statement is and what we're trying to get from these stories, but it's just not delivering. So, here we see that Matt has kind of left the priesthood. He's kind of back to being his normal self, if you will. He's kind of hooked up with a person that he's with in the past here. He's staying with her. He's wearing the black suit again. Maybe it's a change of pace here as he kind of explains that his red suit is now, tattered and needs to be mended here. So he kind of goes back to the past. But again, everything feels like it's just a cash grab. It's kind of like, just kind of leaning into the nostalgic vibes, and it wants people to kind of be like, hey, remember, it's working for books like Transformers. Why can't we lean into nostalgia? Well, maybe because it's not earned. That's what this book feels like. It's not earned. I'm not getting anything fun and exciting here, and it's kind of a drag. So, Daredevil fans, if you're like me, are you still picking this book up? Am I a glutton for punishment? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, with a book that can never be said to be overly verbose, let's talk G.I. Joe Real American Hero The Jinx Special number 1, written by Dan Waters with artwork by Danny. Written by Dan Waters is kind of an overstatement here. It's kind of crafted by Dan Waters with Danny as well, but this is the silent issue. This is the silent one shot for the character of Jinx that explores basically every single page being a second towards the detonation of a bomb that Jinx has set in a Cobra, secret lair. And it's really cool. I like how the storyline is crafted here. I like the story that we're getting. Is each one of these pages could have been something simple like a splash page, but no, Danny takes it a step further here and really shows like every single action that's taking place. And it really goes to show the great storytelling, the visual storytelling and pacing. When an artist to this caliber is doing it in this way, it really goes to show how you can manipulate and control a reader and the pacing of that reader as they have to ingest all of the information on a page. Sure, this is wordless and you can breeze through this, but you're not getting the entire experience if you go that route, and you're not getting all of the visual cues that Danny is leaving for you as you go page by page by page. I really like the storytelling mechanism here, going with that bomb here that's ticking down from 2019, 18, and so on and so forth. And again, the story crafting here is really awesome. This could be something that is spread out like it is in this issue to 20 pages. It could be something that could have been condensed down to a single panel with an explosion. But this goes to show that moment in time could really be widened out, and you can explore so much of what's going on here. So, G.I. Joe Real American Hero, the Jinx special, was pretty awesome. Next up, we have Geiger number 13, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Gary Frank. This book, this whole series has been absolutely stupendous, but this issue like really sets the stage for something big and bold. We get Tariq, who has kind of sort of been learning to control his powers a little bit more, and he's teamed up with Ash Arden, the other nuclear person that definitely does have a better control over her powers. And we get brief glimpses into her past, something more so that's been revealed as she kind of told Geiger about her past previously, but now we're getting little tidbits more so as things are revealed to the reader, but not necessarily the characters in the book. The US Army is now basically in a place where they are starting to confront the nuclear people here, and they're putting an attack onto the township that Ash Arden is kind of like the protector of. Junkyard Joe is there protecting the citizens there, trying to get them into the bunkers. We also see that Dr. Molotov, the person who assisted Tariq Geiger and Ash Arden in the past here, he's been held prisoner. Now he has escaped from his prison here as the attack has allowed him to kind of sneak out of the doorways here and team up with Geiger again. This series is absolutely awesome. Gary Frank is rendering things in this book that make it just so action packed, man. His again, the expressions on people's faces here, the set pieces that he delivers when that action really hits, it's really stupendous. But what this sets the stage for is an epic confrontation, something that I feel like we haven't really gotten in this volume of Geiger as of yet. There's been minor bosses and little tiny threats here, but I feel like for the first time, it's almost like we have maybe not a main boss, but definitely like an end level kind of boss for Geiger's character. And that's going to be pretty awesome. The character relationships have grown between his new ward, Junkyard Joe, of course, the animals that come along the way. And I feel like all of those things are now going to be tested as he truly has to really take control of his powers and really starts to fight someone that maybe is on his same power level. So this sets the stage for an epic showdown here. It was a great issue. Let me know what you thought down below. This book is finally back from its break, so let's talk Phantom Road number 11, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Gabriel Hernandez Walta. I'm a big fan of this series. I feel like this gives, the same kind of vibes that you would get kind of like from Twilight Zone if Twilight Zone were more in the vein of an X-Files here. You mash those two properties together, and I feel like you're going to get something akin to what were delivered in Phantom Road. This issue specifically delves deep into one of the ancillary characters that we've seen in the series so far, which is going to be the FBI agent who's kind of residing almost in present day in this alternate universe that our main characters are in as they're delivering this egg from point A to point B. And when we spend time in the past to kind of see what his interactions were and what his relationship is with this alternate dimension, we start to learn way more about this world. As what we're starting to learn is that the highway that we're running along here, where our main adventure is really taking place, now it's kind of been shown to have maybe magical properties. This could be a ley line for basically all of the interactions magically that could happen, these intersecting points. And those intersecting points happen to be the same places where these murder mysteries are all taking place all throughout time. So our FBI character we see in the past is one of the people who were originally investigating these murders and starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And we need to learn maybe not just about the ley line, but also its interaction with these truck stops and the owner of these truck stops and how this is all starting to work together. So we spend a lot of time in the past getting a lot of understanding of who this person is and why he is so important to the story. I'm hoping now, after this issue, we get to spend way more time in the future and start to see how those interactions are now lining up with our main characters in present day here, because it opens up so many answers and it spells out so much more of this world and what's going on in this book. but it asks equal a number of questions to set us up for what this next arc is truly going to mean moving forward. Phantom Road is a great book. If you're a fan of the X-Files, I feel like this is the absolute best book for you right now because it's the best comparison that you're going to get in comics today. All right, let's talk Phoenix number 10, written by Stephanie Phillips with artwork by Alessandro Miracolo. The book has been waning on me, if I'm being honest, these last couple issues. Jean Grey and the Phoenix Power have kind of leveled up, but they've also kind of given off this power to Adani, another character here who is kind of filled with rage, filled with hate, and trying to kind of come to terms with what that means for her character. But she's very much kind of like leaning into those notions and leaning into that feeling and letting that kind of influence the power that she has, as it's kind of all of our main villain's arc here, where he's trying to use this character to further develop this dark universe where he's going to have control, but she's kind of like the battery behind that. So Jean Grey, the story really takes place all within kind of the mentality and the narration of Jean in her own mind as she's kind of talking through some of the events of her past, what she intends to do for this character, and why it's the right thing to do to kind of lean in and care for the character as opposed to fight the character who's kind of a dark version of her own making. And I get that. I like the heroic notions, but again, it's like it's all being told to us as opposed to kind of like having a little bit of, I don't know, like it's holding the reader's hand too much, if that makes sense. It's not letting us kind of just like kind of come to our own conclusions on things. It's really just like hammering you over the head, like, hey, do you get it? This is what I mean. This is what's happening. And it really like kind of lets the story down. And it's been that way for the last couple issues. The artwork here, though, I have to say, is probably some of my favorite on any Marvel book across the board here. Miracolo deserves to have a real flagship title where they can really soar and deliver on great things. I love the character reinterpretation that we have here with the costume of Phoenix and what she looks like right now. The world is always fantastic. He feels like a modern day, almost like Chris Bachalo type of approach here. Not exactly, but I see some of the page layouts kind of leaning into the same quirkiness that you get from a Bachalo. I don't know. I'm really digging it. I really want to see more artwork from this person here. And I would really like the story to kind of deliver the same levels that the artwork is getting page after page. So overall, Phoenix, it's been good so far. I just don't know if it's something I'm going to follow through with for the next arc. Next up, we have Storm number 7, written by Miraway Ayodelli with artwork by Luciano Vecchio. Much like Phoenix that I was talking about previously, Storm herself has kind of gone through this power up, this level up, if you will, of a cosmic magnitude. And I'm really loving what Miraway is bringing to this book, specifically the dialogue. Sometimes dialogue in comics can get really muddy and kind of like, I don't know, bogged down with things that don't feel natural, don't feel in character, and don't feel in character for things that anyone would say, not necessarily just the character's voice that they're speaking towards. That is never something that you have an issue with Storm. He has a really great understanding of naturalistic dialogue and for the characters and what they would say and what their motivations are. That sings true with this comic. And it feels like something that's so simple, but trust me when I say it's not something you get for each and every comic that we get, especially for the big two. The artwork in here is really great. I love what's coming forward on here, especially with this not being the original artist that was on the book, Lucas Wernick, but you're still getting those really great artistic qualities that you would expect to come from a Marvel book and from the Storm series so far, as they've kind of delivered issue after issue after issue. What I love about this issue is that Storm is tasked with taking on an Avengers level type of threat. This should be something where you have a team, a band of Avengers. Maybe not the entire team, it's not Thanos or Galactus or anything, but it should be something where a couple individuals are out here trying to do the task at hand here. But no, Storm is able to take it on by herself. And it's really dealing with her, navigating the swampland here, where there is a snake where that's basically imbued with the super soldier serum, as a version of the serum had basically gone missing and had dropped into this forest land and has infected the animals basically that are inhabiting that area. So she's able to thwart that. She kind of powers up in doing so. And throughout that, too, you get these great flashback interactions between her and Tony Stark, being that she's kind of doing a lot of different things. She's a representative of mutants. She's part of the United Nations. She's also an Avenger now. She's kind of shed the skin of being an X-Man, but again, she's still, is a representative of mutants as a whole here. So there's a lot of weight on her shoulders, and she's always kind of weighing out how she needs to react and interact based on each one of those things here. And it's great. You get to see that and you get to hear that through the dialogue as you're reading this book. Storm has been fantastic. It's arguably one of the best Marvel books, if not the best Marvel book that's coming out month over month. All right, let's talk Transformers number 19, written by Daniel Warren Johnson with artwork by Ludo Lulabi. So I was a little worried, and I don't know why, because we've already experienced this in the past, but I was a little worried when I saw that we were going to have an artistic change here, but nope. Similar to when Daniel Warren Johnson handed it off to Jorge Corona, we get another artistic change that still feels so in vein with what we're delivered each and every time within the Transformers Energon universe that we have here at Skybound. So the artistic approach really gives me vibes and feels of like Joe Mad back in the 90s, but it still has those chunky ink lines and the real kind of like kinetic energy that you would expect from when Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona were working on the book. I think there was a real level of success that with the artistic approach here that, again, I was worried, but I got to like kind of learn to let go. The storyline here is interesting. It's a little kind of akin to what we got with the Starscream view of the past here, as we kind of see where Megatron has been, what's been going on, but dissimilar to what we got with Starscream, where there was a real kind of like look into the character and it really kind of like humanized him and kind of really made you empathize with the character. Not so much here. Megatron has gone through the trials and tribulations and he's really been put through the ringer and tortured, but it doesn't make you feel for the character basically, because at the end of this you can really see it was like the evil version of a training montage in a Rocky movie or something like that. You see that he's been put through the ringer over and over and over, basically to make him more villainous and more sought to revenge, and for like to give him even more reason to fight the good guys. It's a really great exploration for the character, and it's a really great understanding of where he has been and why he's been off of basically the grounds for this entire series. So I'm kind of curious to see where they take it from here, but it was a really great exploration for that character and understanding what's been going on. It's going to be really exciting now that we're in the end game of Daniel Warren Johnson's time here. We basically have 5 issues left after this issue hits, but I feel like this sets the stage for what's going to be a big, bold, exciting arc that really is probably going to change what happens throughout the entirety of the Transformers moving forward. Next up, we have The Ultimates number 11, written by Dennis Camp with artwork by Juan Frigeri. This was an interesting one. This really takes some time and takes some interesting narrative approaches to tell the story of basically what's been going on in Asgard and what's been going on with, everything that's in that realm, right? So we see that Loki has taken on the throne. Odin is gone and dead. In fact, Loki keeps his head on a pike next to his throne. And what we're seeing is basically Thor and Sif trying to rally the troops and trying to see who's going to be on their side to take the fight over to the Maker and to really kind of restore peace and restore order to Asgard itself here by way of fighting the Maker and all of the manipulations that he's had over all of the 9 realms. And in doing so, Dennis Camp does something that's really fun and really, really interesting, where there's like a lyrical approach. It's almost like he's telling a Norse myth in the book itself right here. And I think that is effective. I think it's really great that he's able to take that approach and really kind of take big swings and big chances. For the single issue experience, though, I gotta say it did draw me out a little bit, as it started to weigh on me more and more as the issue went on. But I will say that I appreciate the fact that he has the ability to kind of take those big swings. I'm okay with them not all landing 100% of the time, and I would rather have them take chances like that and maybe get a solid double rather than a home run. That's what this issue was, but it was still really good. And especially for the universe, that they're building in the Ultimate Universe here, I think it does go to show the scope that they're working with and a lot of the other things that maybe we haven't even really been thinking about, like the magical realms here that Thor is dealing with. We get a little bit more time spent here with Tony, very brief, but we do get a lot of information in the brief time that's given here as to how he is healing, what's been going on, and his interactions with this universe's version of Doctor Doom, as well as there's kind of a grisly look into a potential present slash future that we're going to be dealing with. Overall, Dennis Camp has been crafting a great story. Juan Frigeri has been doing fantastic artwork. In fact, I feel like it's been getting better and better with each issue. And I feel like, again, this is the glue that holds the Ultimate Universe together. With my runner-up pick of the week, let's talk Batman Dark Patterns number 5. Written by Dan Waters with artwork by Hayden Sherman. This is such a fantastic series here, and I feel like it like delivers that bold look at Batman in a time and place where he wasn't perfect, and you see that over and over and over with this issue. It's really the lean, not like muscular like powerhouse that we get from even the Absolute Universe, and it's definitely not the perfect version of Batman that I feel like we get over and over in DC proper. This is the Batman that's still kind of learning the ropes here, is confident, but still has to kind of figure out how the inner workings of all these things need to happen. He's still very much the detective as opposed to the person that can punch his way out of a problem. So in this issue, we see that Scarface has not only taken over the psyche and the mentality of the ventriloquist, but it's now this entire building. As we see that every inhabitant of this building here has been manipulated and kind of become somewhat of the visage and the persona of Scarface himself. So Batman is not only taking on Scarface, the dummy, but also trying to save, but also save himself from the inhabitants of this building. As he traverses through the building, it gives like vibes of like the Raid, right? Where it's like this big, like basically action set piece, this fight scene as he's going from floor to floor, trying to figure out all of like what's happening here. As we need to figure out, is the ventriloquist really the person that's controlling all these people? What are the inner workings of all these things happening? And we get like a really great viewpoint on a lot of different things from Dan Waters here. We get to learn a little bit about auditory hallucinations and manipulation of the inhabitants of this building. And we see how those things can so easily happen, considering that this building is kind of like it's kind of been in one of the lower income levels of Gotham City. So you can see how the people there need to be there. There's a reluctance to leave, both because they don't want to leave their heritage and their history, but also because there's no means to, which means that it made it so much easier for them to be manipulated. I like that they're playing with those ideas and they're playing with the inhabitants' emotions and really putting them against Batman through those means. We get a little bit of the answers here, but with the way that this series is going to be structured, we're basically going to get a new villain or a new arc with each 3 issues. So we're now completely through the midpoint of our Scarface portion of the story, and I feel like we're setting ourselves up here for an epic conclusion. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk The Moon is Following Us, number 8, written by Daniel Warren Johnson with artwork by Riley Rossmo. Man, this issue was again such a hallmark of the things that you would expect to come from Daniel Warren Johnson, and this is no different. When a nightmare is offering to console you, you know that you must be dealing with something dark and deep and bleak, basically. And that's what one of our main characters is dealing with, as this book really kind of like leans into the idea of generational trauma and what that means for basically not dealing with some of the mental traumas of your own past, and like what it means for basically everyone around you, and how your perception of that and how you're dealing with it can also impact each and every person that surrounds you. That's what this book is all about here, and it delivers in such a great way because it kind of puts the our main players in a place where they have to start at least identifying it, if not dealing with it on a very personal level. Daniel Warren Johnson gets to kind of get back on some of the artistic duties here, as well as we get some flashbacks of the family all intact and together. But you see the father figure kind of drawn away from the family as he's, again, dealing with his own past traumas that he's not willing to share and not really kind of willing to go into depth with. But in the same way that he's not willing to deal with it in his real life, in this dream world, it's manifesting in a way that he is not able to deal with it in a very physical way, where these monsters, these monstrosities that are keeping him from his own child here, are fighting against him now because they know that they have power over him. I love what they're doing with this story. And again, because Daniel Warren Johnson is able to do some of the artistic duties for those flashbacks, I feel like whenever that happens, Riley Rossmo and Daniel Warren Johnson really level each other up. They both bring their artistic A games, and I love seeing that because we've seen Riley really take over some of these issues in here and kind of be from start to finish the only artistic approach. And that was really good. But when they get to pair together, it becomes great. The Moon is Following Us is a really heartfelt, tragic story here, but we're starting to see maybe some glimmers of hope. And it tells a compelling story where it's something different than I feel like we've ever gotten from a Daniel Warren Johnson book. We've dealt with heartbreak and loss and trauma, but I feel like the familial aspects of it right now and the way that the family function works is something completely new, completely spellbinding for me. I'm loving what I'm getting here, but I'm more curious. What did you think? Let me know down below. So that's what I've got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and be part of the panel. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.